the responsibility to honor those who were lost and to strive to better understand how we can support affected communities. The MPCA stands committed to improving our relationships with Indigenous peoples and working with them to ensure an equitable and meaningful future for all. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Again, Cheryl Black sends her regrets this evening. Her daughter's getting married, so it's pretty important, and she couldn't be here this morning or this afternoon. I also believe we have others with regrets. So I'm going to turn this over now to Carrie to do a roll call. And Carrie, you can let us know who sent in regrets, and we'll know who's all here. Please.
Definitely. So let me just pull up. I'm going to be typing at the same time. Donna, I can see. Do you want people to actually say hello when they're, if I can see them on video?
I think it'd be good if we can just test their audio. This is always a good opportunity for them to test their audio so they know where the mute button is.
All right, then I'm right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
Dion.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Cindy Lee.
I'm here. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay,
John
awesome.
Musto.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Kelsey, our new member.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Kelsey. Erica.
Hi there. I'm here.
Joe.
I am here.
You are here. Okay, and we had regrets from Harry, so I'm not expecting to hear from him. John, Arians, I'm going to call out for him. I don't see him, and I don't think he was going to be coming late, if at all. And John, Harry, and Mike Kozleric are not here. And I think that's everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Jackie isn't here. Sorry, I didn't have my list of going by memory.
That's okay.
I think that's everyone. We have
Perfect.
member Mackenzie here and member Mackenzie.
Yeah, we have
Vice
Chair Mackenzie. Yep.
And Chair Johnson.
And we have a couple of guests with us, so we'll introduce them in a few minutes. And just to give everybody an idea, I will be asking who's opposed rather than who is approving it, because it just takes longer to count hands. The second thing I'm going to do is ask you all to please mute yourselves. The feedback gets really horrendous if you have too many mics open. And I've got the list of everybody who is here, so I will pick the mover and the seconder, and you will hear your name eventually and nod your head yes or no if you don't want me to choose you to move or second it. So approval of the agenda, it's been moved by Donna and second by Dion to approve the agenda as it was presented to you and mailed out to you. Are there anybody here to oppose the approval of the agenda? Seeing none, thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm not seeing anybody waving frantically. So now we're on to presentations.
Oh, sorry, Donna was waving.
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna.
Yeah, my standard, conflict of interest thing.
Maybe we should just put that in the package, Carrie, when it goes out.
I will.
Donna is not speaking on behalf of her profession, but on her personal notes only.
Thank you very much.
Excellent, no problem. And I'm really happy to introduce to you Gail Wood. I don't know if some of you know this, but Gail's been involved with the MPCA for a very, very long time, and I won't tell you how long, but it's been absolutely wonderful time. She came on as our interim CAO until we were able to hire somebody on full time, and then went over to the foundation. So Gail is here to welcome the public advisory members, and will introduce Andrea Crosby to do her presentation about the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation, which I am a huge supporter of. So over to you, Gail, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Johnson and members of and members of the Public Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity as the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation to do a brief presentation for you this evening. I'm bringing regrets from our chair, Tom Insina, who's also a very busy regional councillor, and regrets that he can't be with you tonight. But I am here as the vice chair to tell you that congratulations on the work of the Public Advisory Committee. And you're doing some really wonderful things, and wonderful to see volunteers doing the type of environmental work that is so badly needed across the province and in Niagara. Just a couple of brief words before I turn it over to Andrea, our executive coordinator. For those of you that might not know, the Conservation Foundation has been in existence since 1969. So it's been around a long time. And our primary function is to raise funds for the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. Particularly, we focus on education, conservation areas assistance, and some restoration, funding some restoration works as well. So Andrea tonight is going to go over the accomplishments of the foundation, but talk to you a little bit about some exciting new things that we have on deck for 2021. So with your permission, Chair Johnson, I'd like to now turn it over to Andrea. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Gail.
Carrie, if I could ask you to pull up the presentation when you've got it there. Perfect. You can skip ahead. So as mentioned, I won't take up too much of your time. Gail has already introduced the foundation, but I am going to go over some really exciting initiatives and a bit of a brief history about the foundation. Carrie, if you could skip ahead. So as Gail mentioned already, we were founded May 5th, 1969 at the request of the NPCA, so technically 10 years after the NPCA was created. Under the Corporations Act, we do have letters patent, articles of incorporation, we are a registered charity, and we do have CRA filing requirements as well. So we are completely functional and operational, and Gail has done a wonderful job over the last year bringing our governance up to speed and up to date to where it should be. And so we currently have a board of 6, as I will touch on shortly next. So our chair, as mentioned before, is Tom Insida, who is also a regional councillor. Gail Wood is our vice chair. We have Rob Foster, who just was recently appointed as our treasurer, and he is our NPCA appointee. He's also a regional councillor. Mickey DeFrucio is still our longstanding board member. He's been a longstanding board member even longer than the foundation with the NPCA, and so he's been into the hospital this year, but God bless him, he's still sharp as a thumbtack, and he's been to all our meetings and staying on top of all our up-to-date information. Donna Cridlin was also appointed this year and is our NPCA appointee as well as a board member. Mary Surgeonese was appointed last September, and she is a board member as well. And then, of course, there's me as the staff member. And going to the next one. Perfect. So in terms of our strategic plan, we do have a vision, a mission, and values that support the NPCA. Our vision is being a leader in providing resources to support the conservation work throughout the Niagara Peninsula watershed. Our mission is to raise funds towards environmental endeavors that include increasing green space, improving water quality, habitat restoration, and environmental research and education, which is going to include our Gallery Capital campaign, which I'll touch on later on in the presentation. Next. And much like the NPCA, our foundation values are to be transparent, accessible, professional, and accountable, delivered through an organization operating with honesty, integrity, and respect. Next. So now we get to the fun stuff, and this is where I am so blessed to work for the foundation because I get to be involved in so many amazing initiatives. So currently some of our 2021 projects on the go is our NPCF Education Bursary Program, which we just wrapped up and I'll touch on shortly, our NPCF Speaker Series, the Great Canadian Giving Challenge / Director's Donation Challenge, our memorial program, the Gallery at Balls Falls Center for Conservation, which is going to be our capital campaign project launching in September, Comfort Maple Pens, Outdoor Education Fund, and educational programming support, The Niagara College Bursary and Brock University Scholarship started through the Right Honorable John Turner Water and Environmental Leadership Award Gala. And then, of course, our conservation area projects through Nevada funding, which is going to be happening in August, our chair celebration event, and the NPCF Giving Weekend as part of the holiday trail. Next. And so this is where I'm going to expand a little bit into some of the exciting initiatives that we've been working on this year. So our NPCF Education Bursary was actually something started in the 90s with the Fort Erie Women's Auxiliary group. They since disbanded shortly after the fund was created with TD. And so we were left the permanent custodians. Before, it was a bursary given to secondary students pursuing post-secondary education in environmental studies related to anything in the environment, be that conservation, fish and wildlife, restoration, etc. Before, it was only given to Fort Erie students, but again, because the club's since disbanded, we are the permanent custodians. We opened it up this year to be able to disperse bursaries to support Hamilton and Haldimand as well. So this year we received a total of 16 applications. Not bad for just having relaunched it and not doing it since 2011. So that was an exciting endeavor. Our Education Bursary Committee met actually the other day, and we voted on those 16 applications and agreed that all of them are going to get a bursary this year of $1,000. And we are well within our means. So the way the fund works, we have the initial donation that was made through the Women's Auxiliary Group, and so we are within our means to disperse those bursaries throughout the year. That will range between $250 and $1,000. So because we haven't given it since 2011, we are more within our means to give that $1,000 bursary to support that education. And we got some really outstanding applications this year, so I'm thrilled. Sorry, next. I get rambly when I get excited, so I do apologize. So the next is our speaker series. We are finishing up with our last session with Yvonne Van Lankveld on June 30th. Our previous sessions included Mark Zielinski, who's a local photographer, in March, and David Newland, who is a former keynote speaker at our gala in May. And then, as mentioned, Yvonne is coming up June 30th. Her speaker session is going to include a signed copy of her first novel, as well as a bottle of the Balls Falls Calamus wine. So it's quite a nice little package. We're looking forward to that coming up at the end of the month. Next. The Great Canadian Giving Challenge kind of ties in nicely with our Director's Donation Challenge, which we've officially launched with our foundation board this month. And we are happy to present let you guys know that more than 50% of our board has donated. So that commitment means a lot moving forward as we approach you guys here today, as well as the NPCA board with your support. And so it ties in nicely with the Great Canadian Giving Challenge. For every dollar donated through our Canada Helps page, we get an entry and a chance to win $20,000 for our cause. So that would be absolutely incredible. You can scan the QR code right there on the page if you feel like making a donation directly. Otherwise, don't feel pressured, but it's a great challenge to be a part of, and so that's going to be wrapping up at the end of June as well. Next. Our memorial program is something that we've had in place for many, many years, and we are constantly looking for different ways of expanding it and making it a little bit more affordable and up with the times. So we currently offer benches right now priced at $5,000 each. Last year, we installed 5 benches with a total revenue of about $13,000. We have 2 benches on the go this year, and we are extending the deadline until the end of July, just so that we can have a couple more bench options open. And I am waiting to hear back from a couple more clients on that. So I'm hoping to have a full roster of another 5 benches installed by the end of the year. Our generous board member, Mary, has been volunteering some time with me to take some time to walk around Balls Falls to seek out some naming options for other memorial and recognition alternatives. I'll go into detail about that another time though. Next. Now the really exciting part. So this is our biggest project for this year, our Gallery Capital campaign. I have to mention that the last time the foundation did a capital campaign was 2009, if I am correct in that. So it's been some time, and we are so excited to be a part of this. So phase 1, it is divided into 3 phases, I should mention. We developed a capital campaign committee, a capital campaign plan, as well as a case for support and a case statement, which have all been very important documents in terms of how this capital campaign has come come together. So we were hoping to launch during this month, but with the busyness of summer and some of our members, we are going to be launching in the fall, which I think will be a really great time once summer is wrapped up and people will be ready. Things are opening back up. Lots of exciting opportunities, I think, in there. And so this is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 is fully funded, which the foundation was happy to support. Phase 2, the foundation is also supported, and we are partially funded and looking to fund about 60% more of what we need before we launch in September. So we're very, very excited about that, and more details will come. Next. I think there's another page on the Gallery Capital campaign, if I'm not mistaken. Perfect. So as mentioned, the capital campaign, is divided into 3 phases. So as we work towards phase 2, which is the building phase, we're seeing everything come together. The designs are, I think, hopefully done by now. So we're excited to see that as it comes together. And I think this is going to be a really great project in terms of what our educational programming is able to offer, as well as a great feature added to our Balls Falls conservation area, which is one of our main conservation areas, one of our active parks. And so the tourism that comes through there on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, that gallery is going to see some new light. And I think that's a very exciting thing since it's just been collecting dust for the last few years. So we're super excited to implement this project and relaunch this to the public. And so in terms of the launch, as mentioned, we were hoping to launch this month, but the busyness of summer has brought us to a launch in the fall, which is very exciting. And so in the background, as I've mentioned, we are looking to raise about 60% more before we do our launch. And so that is about that. We're still in the quiet phase. So we're looking to raise about $35,000 more of our campaign goal before we launch in the fall. Next. I'm sure most of you know about the Comfort Maple tree in Fenwick. It is, I think, just a baby at about 545 years old. So it's been around for some time. But what started as kind of a small fundraiser project back in 2015 with a local wood turner from Pelham, Ontario, turned into quite a nice little project over the last couple of years, and the pens have quite frankly sold themselves. So all of these Comfort Maple pens come from pruned wood of the Comfort Maple tree, and it just makes for a very unique kind of merchandise to offer from the foundation. And I have to just add a quick note too to say that the people who have bought the pens over the years are exceptional. Everybody has had some kind of tie to the tree, and the pen has just made that even more of a special memory. So I was trying to do a promo for June. Unfortunately, by the time Bench got back to me, it was a little too late to advertise, but this promo is going to be on for the duration of summer. It's a gift to celebrate the great outdoorsman. So the gift includes a 6-pack of the Bench Balls Falls IPA beer, one of our unique Comfort Maple pens, a NPCF tote, enamel pin, a card, if that was for Father's Day, although I didn't get any orders, unfortunately, this year. And it can be scanned through the QR code there on screen if you guys are interested in checking that out. Next. So some of our financials, I just reported on Q4 as we are currently waiting for our next report. So things have changed slightly. But as I mentioned earlier, we're really looking forward this year to dispersing some of our Nevada funds towards some of our conservation areas and projects. And so we're looking to do that closer to August. Our endowment fund is our TD mutual funds with our education bursary, and then unrestricted is the rest. Next. Thank you again for giving us your time, and thank you for listening to me ramble on. And I do apologize, I get overpassionate and excited, but thank you so much for allowing us to be here and listening to me ramble.
Thank you, Andrea. Carrie, can you please unshare? That way I can see everybody's face if anybody has any questions or any comments. Thank you, Dion.
Hi, thanks for that presentation. I had a quick query about the Gallery Capital campaign. You mentioned that the update hasn't been done since 2008, and I was just wondering, is it something that is going to be scheduled, say, every 5 years or every 10 years, or it's just as needed?
Andrea?
That's hard to say. So again, we haven't done a capital campaign in some time. I've been with the organization since 2017, and perhaps maybe there just wasn't enough opportunities. But seeing now firsthand how this capital campaign has gone so far, and there's an amount of work before you can even launch, trying to plan it. And so now that I've gotten a chance to see this behind the scenes, I'm hoping this is the start of more capital campaigns. And depending on the success as well, because fundraising in general is hard, fundraising during COVID is even worse. And so depending on the success of this, I can definitely see more in our future.
Thank you. Dion, any other questions?
Nope, not at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else waving or indicating anything. Ladies, thank you so much for coming forward. You already know how much I support this organization. For some of you that don't know, the chair of the MPCA gets an honorarium, and I turn my honorarium over to the foundation. So it's a small amount, but it hopefully helps out a little bit. Anyway, so if you're feeling the mood and you want to support the very organization that you're spending all your valuable time in, feel free. These ladies would be happy to help you with that. So thank you, Gail and Andrea. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. And as a concluding remark, if I might, Chair Johnson has been incredibly generous with the foundation and has been a real leader. As Andrea indicated, we are launching what we call a Director's Donation Challenge. This is our second year. And the aim is to have every director of the foundation, every director of the authority, and hopefully every member of the Public Advisory Committee donate to the foundation. And it can be any amount of money. It can be $10, it can be $20. The important thing is when the foundation goes out and asks for grants from other organizations, it's extremely important for us, and they often ask, have your own organizations and partners donated. So we will be sending you out a letter, and if it's within your ability to donate to the foundation, as I said, it can be a minimal amount. We would very, very much appreciate your support of the foundation. So Chair Johnson, you've been a leader in this regard. We thank you for that on behalf of the foundation, and thank you for the opportunity this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Have a good night. And thanks again for joining us. So it's been moved by Cindy Lee and seconded by John that we receive the presentation from the foundation with our thank yous. Any opposition? Seeing none, thank you very much. So now we're on to the approval of the minutes. This is the minutes of the Public Advisory Committee, April 29, 2021. Moved by Kelsey, second by Erica. Are there any questions or concerns about the minutes or any opposition to receiving them? No, seeing none. Thank you very much. So now we're on to correspondence. There is none, no consent items to talk about. So we're going to jump right into the discussion items. And we love Steve Miller. He's here a lot. And he's going to introduce the first one. This is the floodplain mapping projects for the Big Forks Creek and Beaver Creek. So Steve, take it away. This is the project team introduction and the presentation. And the resolution they're looking for, by the way, is that we endorse the engagement media campaign. So Steve, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Steve Miller. I'm Senior Manager of Water Resources with the Conservation Authority. Now, the province has delegated the responsibility to the Conservation Authority to keep people and property safe from natural hazards like flooding. In order to help us do that, we need to map those flood-prone areas to better understand where they are. So this year, we're looking to map the floodplain of two major tributaries of the Welland River, Big Forks Creek, which drains most of Wainfleet, and Beaver Creek, which drains the central part of West Lincoln. We put out a request for proposal, and we received interest from 11 different engineering firms for each project. So through our competitive procurement process, WSP Canada, the engineering firm of WSP Canada, was successful in obtaining both projects. Now, you might recall WSP, and they were responsible for completing the floodplain mapping on the Welland River, which the MPCA board adopted in December 2019. And as a matter of fact, the same project team that's proposed for Big Forks Creek and Beaver Creek worked on the Welland River floodplain mapping project. So what I'd like to do is introduce the project team from WSP. They'll tell you a little bit about themselves and their background. And at this very, very initial stage of the project, they'll offer themselves up for you to ask any questions that you might have of the team or the project. So with us tonight, we have Stephen Van Haren, WSP's project manager, and Mr. Albert Zuge, the chief technical lead. Stephen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the introduction. That was very kind. Yeah, so I am the manager of the Water Resources Group at WSP, and call me the principal in charge, I guess, of this particular project. My colleague Albert is my chief technical director on this particular project, and will be responsible for all the technical content. He and I will work together. I'll make sure that he has all the resources needed and provide any support that I can input from this body or any other interested bodies that want to discuss the project with us or interact with us in a technical fashion, to ensure that we deliver a product that is satisfactory to you, also that matches the high standards that we've demonstrated we're capable of producing for that we did for the Welland. And yeah, the WSP, in case you're not aware, is a large international consulting firm. We are part of what we call WSP Canada. We are active across the country and into select projects across North America as well. We do a lot of engineering consulting work, planning, advisory type services and so on, but we're focused today on floodplain mapping, which is one of the core services for Albert and myself and our extended team. So we maintain a shop that produces floodplain mapping as one of our major deliverables and services. And we make sure that we stay on the cutting edge of that process to make sure that we have the latest and greatest tools as they develop, as they're challenged, as new products come on board that are improvements over the previous tools. We make sure that we invest properly in obtaining those and maintaining the expertise to operate them. So I hope you get the sense that I'm conveying to you that you can trust my team and that you're in a very good and capable hands. Thank you.
Thanks,
Albert,
Steve.
could you introduce yourself?
Yep.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. My name is Albert Zug. I'm a water resources project manager at WSP. For this particular project, I'm working with my manager, actually, Ms. Stephen Herron, and I will be the technical lead for this subject, Beaver Creek and Big Forks Creek floodplain mapping projects. Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Albert. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm sure myself and the project team would be pleased to answer any questions at this time. You're muted, Madam Chair.
I tell everybody to mute themselves and then I go ahead and do it myself. Are there any questions from anyone here for Steve and the team?
Okay, if none, Madam Chair.
Steve, back to you.
If what I'd like to do now is go through just a very short presentation to talk about how we propose to the media campaign surrounding the first public engagement session.
Perfect. Thank
so
you.
Let me share my screen here. Okay, can folks see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm muting myself again, just letting you all know.
Great. So for those that don't know, just a quick, we have Big Forks Creek, the drains most of Waynfleet. The area that we're proposing to map the floodplain is outlined in red. And north of the Welland River, we have our good friend Beaver Creek. Again, the areas, the length of the creek and its tributaries that we propose to map is outlined in red. So how do we let folks know about this? The Conservation Authority, and for those of you that are that have been on the Public Advisory Committee, you're going to recognize this process. This was the same process that was used for the to engage the public for the Welland River floodplain mapping study, for the Walker's Creek floodplain mapping study in the city of St. Catharines, and the Lincoln and Grimsby floodplain mapping project that just wrapped up. But that being said, we want to present it to you, and we'd love to get your feedback. So before any active engineering work happens, before any before any surveying or active calculations, we're going to hold the first public engagement session. And this is a session where all we're going to do is listen. We want to hear what local folks have to say that live in the area, that live along the creeks. Tell us about their experience with flooding. What have they seen? How high has it gotten? It's an opportunity for people in the watershed to tell their story and to ask questions of the project team. We're looking to schedule that for end of July or August, sometime in August. It'll be in the evening, virtually, unfortunately, from 6 to 8. This will be the first of 3 rounds. The second round of public engagement will be approximately at the 60% mark of the project. I like to think of this as a technical understanding round. People can ask questions, but the project team will introduce the work to date and talk about things like the 100-year storm, talk about things like how does one actually undertake floodplain mapping? And of course, get the public's feedback. The last round will be at the completion stage, where we introduce to the public the draft floodplain mapping for people to comment on. Even though it's an engineering exercise, there are some instances where people will look and say, I don't think you've mapped my property quite right, or you might want to take a look at this. And so we welcome that input. So the media campaign around the first public engagement session to be held the next number of weeks. Print advertising, classic. 1 to 2 weeks before the meeting, Niagara This Week, Farmers Monthly. Direct mail via Canada Post. This worked really well in the Walker's Creek, Lincoln, Grimsby project, as well as the Welland River. A postcard is generated, and it's mailed out directly to people living within 200 meters, 300 meters of the watercourse. Now, this is and the big caveat on this is that we can get that the mail, the addresses from the municipalities. So we're going to begin speaking with them to see if they can provide that information to us, and we're confident that they can. On our website, create a web page for the project. You see an example of the Grimsby and Lincoln one. You go, it contains a place to comment. It contains all the information that's been generated so far. It contains recordings of our public meetings. People can go and download the information, look at it. This is in an effort to be completely and open and transparent. We want folks to understand what we're doing, and if they don't, we want folks to ask questions. We'll advertise the first public engagement session on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts. And this worked very well for Grimsby and Lincoln. We advertise it on the municipal community calendars. So here you see Waynfleet's and West Lincoln's. We intend through the clerk to have these the meetings posted. We also send those postcards to municipal councilors, senior staff of those municipalities. So it's not just the residents that know about the meetings, it's the local councilors and municipal staff. So after the first public engagement session, WSP will then start the technical work, the surveying and the measurements and all that kind of thing. Prior to holding the second public engagement session, that's probably about 6-7 months out from that, WSP will present their work to this group and give this group the opportunity to ask questions, provide comment. Conservation Authority staff will also provide a summary of the first public engagement meeting. Questions, the themes that were asked, how it was presented, how it went, that kind of thing. So to end this all off, subject to any comments or amendments that you might have, we would like to seek the endorsement of the Public Advisory Committee on this engagement strategy so we can start to schedule it, we start to organize it. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Can you unshare for me, please?
Now, let me.
So in the meantime, members, if you can think of any questions for Steve and the team about the public engagement strategy, how do we reach out to people if this seems to be a good plan? We want to hear from you. If you have any suggestions, we want to hear from you. Donna.
Surprise, surprise, it's me. Hi, Steve. That's awesome. Thanks.
Thanks,
welcome aboard, nice people. I have 3 questions that I wrote down. I have 3 questions and a comment. So the first question, why restrict people to the 200 to 300 meters of the watercourse, right? I'm a big fan of, water's managed on a watershed basis, and everyone in the watershed should have access, because if the water floods and it backs up, and it might only affect my property, but I'm a farmer and I live outside of that watershed, but I farm 3/4 of the land in that watershed. I'm going to want to comment on that, even though I don't live within 200 meters of one of those water courses. So I would encourage you to expand that limitation for how many cards you send out.
Nope, I appreciate the comment.
Because they're mostly rural watersheds, right? Like.
That's right.
Yeah.
The what we've if I may through you, Madam Chair, what we found in the past, the folks that are mostly impacted by the floodplain live within 200 to 300 meters, and it was an issue of cost, quite honestly. But that being said, we will definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, it's just, most of it's going to be rural land, and the farmers aren't always going to live there. But it's covered through the Niagara Farmers Monthly, and it's covered through the other stuff too, right? So.
And you had 2 more questions, right, Donna?
Yeah, second one's on climate change data and models and parameters. I guess it's more of an expectation statement that, when you come back to us with the 60% data load, I'm going to want to see more, about, what were the models, what were the model parameters, what import data sources did you use? I've gone through most of the other watershed studies, but I still like to know that. Like, it's not enough just to show me that, oh, look, here's a map and here's where we identified a problem. In order for me to actually critically evaluate it, I want more. So if we can have technical reports before the next presentation, that would be really good.
Yep, and I can confirm through you, Madam Chair, that would be the intent. At the second round of public engagement, there would be all the work to date, the draft reports posted to our website, so folks can go and grab it, digest it, well in advance of the public meeting. So that is certainly the intent.
Cool. The next one is climate change. Are there, did the RFP include anything for projecting any kind of climate change future model as opposed to kind of current model?
Yep. No, thanks for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. So by our regulation, the storm that we regulate is the 100-year storm event.
Yeah.
And so that's sure. Right now, and that is the focus of this study. Climate change, the impacts of climate change were not included because for two reasons. One, the direction as to where the Conservation Authority is going on climate change hasn't been nailed down. And second, just what are we looking at? Do we double the storm, the 200-year storm? Where do we stop? There's so many different models or opinions as to what the impact will be. There's only one consensus though with respect to climate change, and that here in our watershed, we can expect things to be warmer, wilder, and wetter.
Right.
But just how do you quantify that?
Yeah.
But no, excellent question, and it's something for us to consider. Leave that with me.
Okay, Donna.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? People who don't have their videos on: Joe, Cindy Lee, Erica, John, Kelsey. Do any of you have any questions? And Dion, wave away just so I can't see anybody else.
Cindy Lee here.
Cindy Lee there, go ahead.
I can tell you that's right in my backyard.
Wow.
Where it like I can see it. So yeah, so no, I don't have any questions pertaining to the project. I'm quite aware of what needs to be looked at because I've been living in it for 30 some years at this location. So yeah.
Hi, it's Kelsey. I as well do not have any other questions at this time, but I look forward to the updates and the community engagement piece.
Okay. Just wait a minute in case anybody else is fumbling with their mute button like I do.
Joe, very nice.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, very nice presentation, pretty straightforward, so no questions.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, everybody. I just didn't want you to feel like we were leaving you out. We can't see you, but you're still part of this group, very much so. So what Steve and the gang are looking for is for the PAC to endorse their public engagement process. So I have it down, if it's okay with you, Kelsey, and seconded by Erica, that we do endorse that their public engagement process. So are there anyone here to oppose that? And please shout out if I can't see you, if you're opposed. Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved. Thank you very much, Steve and the gang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was wonderful. So now we're moving on to the strategic planning process update. Natalie Green, project manager, is here to give us some survey results, summary, and input on public engagement. Speaking of public engagement. So Natalie, good to see you again.
Hello, thank you, Chair Johnson, and thank you, Public Advisory Committee members, for giving me the opportunity again to speak to you tonight. I'm actually going to be talking about two things tonight, so we'll start with the strategic plan and get that up on the screen. If it will go, there we go. All right, so I think everyone has seen this timeline before, but essentially we're just moving forward along this timeline in Q2. The public survey closed on May the 6th, and I'll give you an update on the results of the survey today. And we've begun developing our goals and actions, and we'll be moving forward with key performance indicators and beginning to put together the key components of a strategic plan. So it's a very exciting part of the process. As I've mentioned before, and I've been to this committee a few times, public engagement is a top priority for us. We wanted to ensure that we're informing about the strategic planning process and collecting feedback on initially the draft strategic priorities that staff put together. We had information on the Get Involved portal, information, videos, and tools. Steve Miller just highlighted a few options that he was using for his engagement as well. We did some outreach marketing campaign, digital ads, newspaper ads, earned media, social media channels. And then as I noted, the public survey, and thank you to, again, the Public Advisory Committee members for providing some input on that draft survey. Initially, that shaped it. The survey was launched on March the 30th and ran until May the 6th. In total, we received 501 surveys, and it says comments being synthesized, but they are synthesized now. I should have updated that. Now, 501 may not seem like a big number, but we are thrilled with the amount of surveys that were provided in this particular process. The analytics really tell the story. A lot of people were aware and a lot of people engaged in the NPCA strategic planning process. Our campaigns had 917,000 impressions. That means it's the number of times our combined ads were seen or heard. Our social media ads reached 90,923 unique users. We had 1,541 engagements, and those are, clicks, likes, reactions, comments, shares on our social media posts. Our digital ad clicks, these are just the top digital ad clicks, but Kijiji ads had 65,000 clicks, and Weather Network ads had 69,000 clicks. So we're very excited by that. People were clicking and looking in for more information. All of the Niagara and I believe some of the Hamilton media outlets covered the story as well. Our YouTube video, so we did have a brief promo video for the strategic plan, 231 video views the last time I checked. We sent out a MailChimp, so an e-newsletter that was sent out to 2,777 people, and over 1,000, so 1,200 people opened that newsletter and did read the information. 204 real paper copies of letters were sent out, namely to municipal councillors and stakeholders where we had physical mailing addresses for. The Get Involved portal, apparently I have a hard time with that word, had over 4,300 visits to that particular project page and 500 visitors engaged. So they participated in either the ideas tool that we had up or the survey tool. 757 visitors were informed, and 3,600 visitors were aware and visited at least one page. So again, bottom line here is that lots of people knew about the strategic planning process, and we got a great number of surveys received, both digital and hard copy. We had 5 hard copy surveys, paper and online, so 501. We heard from mainly Niagara region, 441 or 88%. And then we did hear from some people in the city of Hamilton and Haldeman. And I think we had 1 or 2, prefer not to say. What was interesting, if you look through the comments, and we did not adjust the numbers, but there were some others that were technically from Hamilton, like Dundas and Waterdown and Stony Creek, but chose not to identify as from the city of Hamilton for some reason. So the percent by sector group, so we did ask people to identify what sector group they're representing. So most of the survey respondents, 43.5%, were from the general public. The next biggest category, sorry, I should point out, were conservation area users. So key takeaways from the public surveys. I did go through the public comments. There were a lot. We also have a consultant on board who has gone through those survey responses and has synthesized those for us as well. But I'll just highlight the key takeaways from that survey. Essentially, the strategic priorities all received strong support except for destination of choice. So we have proposed revisions being made, and I will go through those with you today. The feedback was generally very positive and supportive. And again, I will show you the ratings for each of the strategic priorities and some example comments that were received. What I did find from the comments, there were some times where there was a misunderstanding of the NPCA's roles and responsibilities in some of the comments that were coming through. And then also just some takeaways for the staff as well as we're going through the strategic planning process is that we need to be aware of the language and terminology used. There were some times where people were commenting on that they didn't understand what a particular thing meant. And I can't think of one on the top of my head, but there were a few of those instances. So we've kept a note of those as well so that we can address those as we write up the strategic plan. So now I'll go through each of the strategic priorities. At the top, I need to move our faces here. At the top here, I have an average rating of tulip tree leaves that were summarized from what people scored on the survey. So for healthy and climate resilient watersheds, it scored an average rating of 4.6. And some of the sample feedback was they want the MPCA to focus on protection of people and land from flooding. The suggested goals are critical for human health. We need aggressive targets on forest cover. Unclear what is meant for preparing for the impacts of climate change. So that's kind of some of the comments that I was mentioning about the language. You know, what does that mean? Must include with equal weight consideration of normal agricultural processes. Those are just a few samples. Sustainable growth, average rating of 4.1. So some sample feedback, proper planning to ensure smart growth principles that preserve sensitive ecosystems. The explanation is extremely vague and confusing. Although I found for this priority, a lot of people really seem to get it. I was surprised. Green infrastructure and low impact development are imperative for new developments. Growth is inevitable. The MPCA needs to advocate for natural lands, limit growth in undeveloped areas, or emphasize densification, building on brownfields. Connecting people to nature had an average rating of 4.5. Frequent confusion about active transportation. And again, here, this is what I mean about some of the terminology used. I think people thought maybe that was driving cars around, but there was a few times where that came up quite frequently. Maintaining public access is integral to fostering public stewardship, more focus on environmental education, public lands for public use. The MPCA function is not a park and recreation department or operator. Connecting with nature is good for our physical and mental health, and more inner city green spaces are needed for those who can't access conservation areas. Organizational excellence scored a 4.1. Providing staff with the support and tools they need to achieve a healthy work-life balance. It supports other priorities. Should be the goal of any organization. MPCA staff need to have a customer focus across all areas of work, and MPCA policies should be transparent to every resident. Financial sustainability and innovative business models. I should have updated this title. Average rating 3.9. So still pretty strong, nearly 4. Heavy reliance on municipal levy to fund the organization, user pay systems work, cost share farm conservation programs. Consider a fee for service arrangement. Align the MPCA with private, public, and political entities that are a good fit to build public trust and political support. It depends on how you diversify your funding sources. Unclear what is meant by innovative business models, service offerings, building capacity. So again, these are we pulled out some of the terminology that people were struggling with a little bit. Partner of choice, another 3.9. Engage municipalities, improve relations with governments and other stakeholders to benefit our conservation efforts. It depends on who you choose as a partner. Actively liaise with local outdoor clubs, nature clubs, birding groups to form the core of volunteer and help with fundraising, strengthening partnerships with local educational, probably institutions. I'm not sure if that's my fault here, might help to bring more public attention to and support for MPCA work. Marketing as a destination of choice was the lowest ranked and below, 3, so 3.4, so below 3.5. Most of them reached at least a 4, which is an average of agree. 5 is strongly agree. So we have made some suggestions to change this particular priority, and I'll go through that in a second. So marketing, the sentiment in these comments are really about not wanting to spread our conservation areas too thin. So not unless you can create more conservation areas, properties cannot support high volumes, could take away from local users. We're already a destination of choice, don't need more marketing. So again, I'm not sure if it was a terminology there. Conservation and contributing to the local economy are often at odds. Please be about conservation first. Niagara's position as a tourist destination could be enhanced by making more areas for walking or biking only, special parking and shuttle bus. I believe that probably means to our CAs. It's hard to tell. Other agencies who concern themselves with such things. So basically, stay in your lane is kind of the sentiment here. And I think because we're in the middle of a pandemic right now and people value our conservation areas and are visiting our conservation areas often, and they are very popular, I think some of the comments are reflecting those particular issues at the moment. So we don't have a ton of time I will go through these, but I was supposed to keep the discussion fairly short. So I do want to let you know that if you would like to provide input, I can set up a one-on-one meeting with you if you like, or a special meeting of the PAC to go through these, or you can email me as well. But I will go through just some of the proposed changes that we're making based on what we heard in the survey. So, we took those comments and listened and started working on what the goals might look like for each of these priorities. So I'll just run through these fairly quickly. Carrie, I think I'm still okay for time.
You're doing just fine.
Okay. Short on time. Healthy and climate resilient watersheds. So we have 5 goals identified here. Everything that you see today is still draft. We are still putting things together. We are still working on shaping what our strategic plan is going to look like. So we value and appreciate your input at this stage is very important. So the first one, support of evidence-based decision-making for climate-resilient watersheds and shorelines, protect people and properties from natural hazards and climate impacts, restore and enhance natural habitat, water resources, and forest cover, increase biodiversity, habitat connectivity, and natural cover through land management, and protect drinking water sources as the Source Water Protection Authority. The second one here, you'll see we changed the title. It says support sustainable growth. Again, this is what we heard through the survey, that our role here is not to lead sustainable growth. We are to work with our partners and support sustainable growth practices through our planning practices. So the first one, improve and streamline client services for planning, review, and permits, lead proactive sub-watershed planning, mapping, and research to support sustainable growth and municipal policy development, implement sustainable technologies and green infrastructure, best practices for climate resilience, demonstrate environmental best practices at NPCA properties. Connecting people to nature. So we have 5 goals here. Create equitable access to green space to support the health and well-being of people, provide nature education for the next generation of environmental stewards, build awareness, environmental stewardship, and volunteerism, improve cultural connections and heritage appreciation, and promote the watershed as a destination of choice for adventure, culture, and ecological tourism. So what you'll see here is the original priority of destination of choice as its own priority is still important and has been melded in with connecting people to nature, and that's where it landed as a goal as opposed to its whole own priority. Organizational excellence, attract, retain, and invest in high caliber, diverse talent to deliver on exemplary outcomes. Enhance the use of digital technology to improve internal operations and processes. Provide high standards of customer service and build trust through meaningful engagement and open communication. And demonstrate leadership in corporate greening initiatives and sustainable practices at NPCA properties. Financial sustainability. Ensure responsible, sustainable, and stable fiscal practices. Develop a cost recovery model for value-based service offerings. Deploy a proactive asset management program and close the state of good repair gap. Use approaches to optimize self-generating revenue sources. And then last but not least is partner of choice, and we have 3 goals here. Strengthen government and stakeholder relations toward collective outcomes and impact. Leverage relationships with the community, ENGOs, businesses, and academic institutions for new and emerging areas of interest, and improve engagement with local First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples for shared stewardship. So again, for input on any of those, I can take some questions at the end, but I'm also willing to set up meetings if that's required as well for gathering input. So we're almost nearing the end of my presentation here. I wanted to show you the question toward a shared vision. So if you recall, I believe it was our last meeting, we did a quick poll on WebEx and I provided some statements. They were also in the survey. If you completed the survey, you would have seen them there as well. So we asked the community to vote on their top 3 phrases that were actually came out of a staff session. So this is a staff-led process, and we picked the top 10 and then put those out to the public, to the board, as well as the public advisory committee. So these are the results of the public survey. The top choices here were the most chosen one here was with 263 was a healthy landscape now and for future generations, followed by healthy and resilient watersheds. And then if I overlay the board choices, those are the stars, those actually almost completely match what the public liked as well. There's just actually all of the top ones were all the same for the board and for the public. And then we overlay the Public Advisory Committee top choices. And the one that is shared by all is a healthy landscape now for future generations, and then followed by healthy and resilient watersheds, as I noted. So we're taking that information and we're going to start crafting a vision statement as well as a mission statement. I also wanted to show you, I'll push the button and I'll talk as it goes. There were some other keywords that came out of the comments that people provided, and there's a lot here for you to read, but they're slowly coming through. So these are other words that were suggested. So we're also taking a look at those and seeing which ones could fit for us as well as we work towards developing our strategic plan. So the next steps, reviewing. So we have reviewed the input to date. We have started refining the strategic priorities. We have started developing our goals and actions. As you can see that the goals have been presented today. We do have some example actions that staff has started putting together for each of the goals. And next week, actually, we're having a staff engagement session to begin developing our key performance indicators and measures. And all of this feeds into our draft strategic plan. So we are working towards creating a draft strategic plan. It will go to the strategic planning committee. If not a full draft, at least most of the components will go there. And I know that this committee does not meet again until September. So what we'll likely do is circulate the draft for consideration by email, if that's appropriate. And what we're also planning on doing, along with Steve Miller, is more public outreach and engagement as per our communication plan that I presented to this group in September of last year. So for this phase, which is essentially check in and validate, so we want to show people that we want to show them the results that we've gathered so far, show the changes that we've made and what we came up with as a draft strategic plan, and to gather some more input to be able to move forward with that document. What I'm looking for today is any questions that you may have, as well as input and ideas from the Public Advisory Committee for engagement number 2. We had in our engagement plan talked about a virtual public meeting. I know that people are getting a little zoomed out from having these webinars and such, and it will have to be in the summer months. It's inevitable at this time. This is when things will be ready, and I know that it's not ideal, but I'm looking for your input, and any suggestions that you may have, I'd be happy to take those back to the project team.
Okay, thank you very much, Natalie. If you could unshare, that would be really helpful. And I know what you mean by acronyms. We live in a world of acronyms, and people constantly say, what does this MNR mean? What does this mean? So I'm constantly telling people, please just dumb it down for me, because no matter what profession you're in, acronyms is always going to be there. So has anybody got any questions or comments for Natalie? Dion, I see your name up first. Anybody else that's not on video, either use the chat room or just shout it out when Dion's finished, please. Thank you. Dion, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. I had just one comment and a question. The idea of putting the destination of choice underneath, connecting people with nature, I think it's a good idea. I did, however, wonder about what the equitable access would look like and what would fall under achieving that. And if it's not something you can answer now, I'm willing to put my comments or questions in an email to you.
No, I can answer that now. I'm just going to give me a second here because I'm going to pull up what we have for example action. So thank you for your comment, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your comment. And I'm happy that you agree that that was a good place to put it. For equitable access, I will, if this is okay. So what we have as example actions to date, again, these are draft, is one example is identify and remove socioeconomic barriers to being able to access MPCA properties and programs. Ensure that our conservation area master plans are completed for all of our MPCA properties for long-term management, conservation, and recreation, including looking at ways to improve our visitor experiences and services. And then exploring opportunities for acquiring urban or near urban lands to increase equitable public access. So we recognize that our conservation areas are quite a ways away and not accessible by bus, or by walking. So this is kind of where this was coming from, is being able to have locations that people can access in urban or near urban areas. And then there's a couple more here, but they're less related to the equitable part.
Okay, Dion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any, Donna?
Cool, that's really awesome. Thanks, Natalie. As you know, I'm kind of excited about this project. So, if you send me, whatever kind of Word document you've got with some of that stuff on it, I wouldn't mind just providing my comments if you're willing. The other thing is, I really like those 2 slides about the towards a shared vision with the bar graph that showed that, and the one with the keywords on it. And I don't know whether they're on your website yet or not, or on your, I forget what the page is where we're supposed to go to actually provide input, what that's called. That's hidden page somewhere else. But if you could post that, like even as hey, we heard you. Here's some cool stuff, right? You're not giving them anything that you're going to change. You're not giving them new priorities or strategic things. But I think that's kind of cool. And I think people would like to see that. And so the 500 people that wrote their survey and the 5,000 people that filled that in might like to just get that quick, easy feedback from a feedback point of view. The last thing is ideas for engagement, right? So you're going into your summer busy season where people are walking into these conservation authorities all day, every day. And so if you want feedback, ask them when they walk in the door, right? Have a little card that says, dude, this is what we've come up with. These are what we're thinking, provide your input here, because, like you said, another virtual Zoom meeting and people are going to poke their eye out with a fork because they're too busy walking your trails because we're finally allowed outside. So, ask them while they're engaging in your programs, is my biggest comment or recommendation or whatever you want to call it. Cool.
I think Donna's been reading my notes. I've got outdoors on there. Exactly. Good for you,
Yeah.
Donna. Well said.
Cool.
Anybody else would have any questions, please? Cindy Lee or Erica, Kelsey, John?
Cindy here. I really like that, what Donna just spoke about, that engagement. Would that look like a postcard? It's too bad we couldn't have like a little, well, we got to be careful with the hand sanitizer, but something that they can just quickly fill in, right? I think that would really, I mean, you're going to have regular users all the time that are using the parks, as well as the conservation areas, as well as new individuals, right? So I think that would be really great input to have it. And I do like that piece about, putting that up on the site too, just because 501 comments, but they were like thorough. They were like thorough comments. It wasn't just like, they really were thought out, and all those little words, awesome. And I think that is so important to also recognize those that they're going to be looking for, their input that they put into this, right? So I agree with Donna. I think there's some great ideas there, and I think that would be really helpful for, moving forward with some additional pieces of the project publicly.
Hi, Kelsey here. I wanted to, I'm trying to figure out how to put my hand up. I've never actually used this platform.
Oh, good for you. If you want,
yeah.
there's a chat, Kelsey, there's a chat room in the corner, and you'll see a bubble on the bottom right-hand side. It says participants, and there's chat. Well, if you pop up chat,
I can see
you can actually type in there, and then I'm watching that. So if you want to put your hand up, you don't have to. You just say question, please, or, it's.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I had my camera off because my internet's a little bit choppy.
Oh, I hear you.
There's also another,
thinking,
sorry, Kelsey, it's Carrie. There's also another button at the bottom under reactions. It's right next to the share your content.
I see
with
it.
a little smiley
Okay.
face. I think you can raise a hand or put a hand up for that as well.
Thank
That's
you so
another
much.
option.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was even just wondering about something like a Google survey or a Google form that we could even share with our community, that if they are using a certain space, it would just be another opportunity for them to share some feedback as opposed to doing a Zoom you know, session or a session with everybody at one time.
Natalie?
Yes, I think those are fantastic ideas. We will definitely take a look at advertising at our CAs. We did have some postcards at Balls Falls, but it was during for our last survey was when everything was closed. So I think, you know, some advertising and a QR code or something would be helpful. I'm not sure if we'll do another survey or at least drive people to our site. And we did commit to at least one virtual public session. So that was the other thing. We had talked about one or two, and again, because it's summer, if you think that it's best to do one and just put the recording up online for people to submit questions, we can take a look at that as well. But this is great feedback. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Same.
Okay, Kelsey, everything okay? We can go on to the next person.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Anybody else before we move on? Natalie, awesome. I think that Donna's was reading my notes. So I don't care what she says. I said the same. I thought the same thing outside, even just standing outside the Balls Falls on a weekend and have your clipboard, and people can you can ask questions. You might even want to just condense it down to like, you know, the 5 main questions that seem to be everyone's interest. I don't know, just to make it easy and fast. People that are enjoying our trails, I think, first of all, deserve that voice as you're hoping to get. But also, I think that what you see it's like they have that constant reminder. They're looking at the trees right away. They're looking at the trails and they got their hiking boots on, so that you know that they're eager, and they'd be great. It'd be great feedback. So those are just my my comments. And Joe writes in what Carrie said. So we're all good to go. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I've got, it's moved by Joe and seconded, we're going back up to the top of the list, seconded by Donna, that the strategic planning process update, survey results summary, and input on public engagement and was received. And that, there we go. So any opposition to receiving that wonderful presentation from Natalie? Seeing none, it's moved. So now we're on to the Niagara River beach closings. This is the beneficial use impairment assessment report, verbal update from Natalie as well. And we will receive that at the end. So go ahead, Natalie, you're on again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm put on my other hat now. So from strategic plan to my other job, which is the Niagara River Remedial Action Plan. So this is a partnership of different organizations that work together to protect and restore the Niagara River. I did speak to this group, I believe it was this time last year, with just a general overview of the Remedial Action Plan. So we have some really exciting news. We just completed an assessment report that shows all of our Remedial Action Plan goals that relate to water quality at Queens Royal Beach in the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake have all been met. And it's all thanks to a lot of different partners working together. We're now recommending that the status of this RAP indicator be officially changed to not impaired to show that water quality in the Niagara River has improved. Essentially, there was historical problems with E. coli bacteria pollution at this particular beach. We did lots of track down studies with Environment Canada, and we found that the main source of bacterial pollution was actually coming from a storm sewer outfall. And storm sewer should only carry storm water, so rainwater and snow water, so snow melt. And we're finding human bacteria in the storm water. So that was as early as 2010. The town then, just recently in 2017, when all those track down studies wrapped up, got funding from Environment Canada to do a full track down of the storm sewer catchment area. And they identified all the priority actions, figured out where all the sources were going, and it implemented a lot of different remediation activities, repairing sewers, disconnecting the wading pool in Simcoe Park, constructed a low impact development bioswale. So lots of things that the town has done to be able to address the water quality problems at the beach. So we're really excited to say that monitoring shows now that the beach is doing a lot better and that it's meeting our goals of at least 80% of all of the samples over the last 3 years of meeting those provincial water quality safe swimming guidelines. And now we want to move forward with being able to remove that and asking the government to take that indicator off for us. And that's a tremendous milestone for the Remedial Action Plan Plan program on our journey to remove the Niagara River from the list of Great Lakes areas of concern. It's a really big deal. So right now we're going to be starting public engagement, more public engagement. We're not doing any virtual public meetings though, thankfully. So everything will live on our website. We will offer some paper. We have a very short survey and all of the information up on the website, and we're leveraging our MPCA portal for this information as well. But if you're interested in learning more, I know Carrie did send the full assessment report, and I encourage you to visit our website. It's not on the MPCA's website, it's actually on our remedial action plan website. So it's ourniagarariver.ca/beach. And we'll be advertising that very soon. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Any questions from the members, please? Seeing none, that was actually a very good news story. Thank you, Natalie. Just love to hear those once in a while. So we're at the top of the list again. So moved by Dion, second by Cindy Lee, that we receive the presentation from Natalie with our thanks. Any opposition? Seeing none, thank you very much. So now we're on to committee reports. So just to let you know, this one here is the Niagara River. Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong one. Let me get down there. My apologies, folks. That's a big, long report I gotta get to. There we go. So on May the 20th, 2021, the MPCA was informed that the current Niagara Region Métis Council representative on the Public Advisory Committee, Mr. Derek Pont, will be stepping down, and we're going to miss him terribly. He did note that he had consulted with the Métis Nation Ontario Region 9 presidents, and they wish to see a Métis citizen from the Niagara area fill the remainder of his term. The Niagara Region Métis Council discussed the membership and put forward a wonderful candidate by the name of Kelsey Huxley, a Métis Nation of Ontario citizen who is a resident of Welland and interested in serving with us, and she's with us tonight. So Kelsey, we can't thank you enough for coming to our meeting. If you want to just introduce yourself, I sort of took away some of that thunder. I'm so sorry.
No
But I didn't want to
problem.
get anything screwed up, so I read it right from Radon. But it's really wonderful to see you, and thank you for
Hey
stepping up.
everyone. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's definitely an honor, and I'm looking forward to representing the voice of the Métis citizens. The NPCA is very near and dear to me. I'm also an educator with the Niagara Catholic District School Board, and our Indigenous education program is actually situated on the St. John's conservation property. So it's definitely a beautiful site, and I have a great relationship with the MPCA, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you on this great committee. I've heard a lot of great things from Derek. I know I have big shoes to fill, but I'm happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Wow, we're really happy to have you, and I'm sorry, it's Métis.
Like
I'm
Métis.
so seriously,
like
I come by this so honestly. If you heard some of the way my mother pronounced things, you would just howl.
No worries.
So Kelsey, I'm going to get you to second this. So it's moved by John, and it's been seconded by Kelsey that we move the recommendation. Are there any opposition to this wonderful replacement? And we are going to miss Derek. So, and seeing none. Kelsey, welcome aboard. I know you got your feet wet at the very beginning. Good for you.
Thanks.
All right. So now we're going down to, let's see, this discussion paper. So it has been sort of played around a little bit that because this was Cheryl Black's it's really her patent, it's her idea, and it's her project. There was some sort of discussion that maybe we should just sort of hold this off till the next meeting so that Cheryl Black could be a part of this. There was some discussion that it really didn't have any negative implications if we were to move this now and receive this now and move the recommendations. But I'm just going to put this out to the committee to see what their wishes are. Would you like to defer this until Cheryl Black is here to help be a part of that discussion and probably would like to move this as well? So can I just hear from somebody, please? Donna, you're shaking your head yes. So can I
I'd like to
verbally?
defer it. I'm not 100%. I understood what we were doing when we made our 3 comments, and I'm not 100% sure that it's a reflection of all of our input.
Well, maybe now that Kelsey's with us, it might be an idea, Carrie, to send that to her as well.
I'd like to
and bring
just hold it
Kelsey up
up until we could talk to Jackie. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Does anybody who would like to second that, please, to defer that? Oh, Cindy Lee just came in. Cindy Lee, you want to second that, or would you like to speak? Speak. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
No, I can second it. That's fine. I think it should be deferred so we can, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So it's moved and seconded. Any opposition to deferring this to the next PAC meeting? I'm seeing none. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I know that some people want to get this off their desk, but I really think it'd be really nice if we waited for Jackie.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Jackie was really disappointed to not be here this evening. She told me her daughter's been waiting 3 years to get married and decided that she was going to get married this month. So
there's just some people that it's just all about them, isn't it? The daughter could have waited, but who's saying?
But so she did send her regret. She felt bad for missing 2 meetings in a row. So yes, I think this is a good way forward.
Not to worry. Okay, folks, we're now on to report. I don't know, this is hard for me to. Report number PAC 0221 NPCA Public Advisory Committee discussion paper be received. Okay, no, we're not doing that. It's been deferred. So we're on to new business, right, Carrie? Perfect. Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our friend Jeff Vercade to give us a verbal update on the Growing Canada Forests requests for information. Go ahead, Jeff. Thanks for being with us tonight. Uh-oh, did you just put something in your mouth? Oh, I thought you were eating. No, you're muted though. No, you're still muted. This is our IT guy too, guys. Every time we have problems, we always run to Jeff. So he's gonna take his headphones out.
Can you hear me now?
That's wonderful.
Something's going on with my headset. That's happened a couple of times today, so I apologize for that. But yes, thanks for having me. And I will say to you, Madam Chair, that this is an exciting opportunity. It's in response to an announcement made by Natural Resource Canada of the federal government earlier in March with respect to a 10-year commitment to plant 2 billion trees across Canada. And this is part of their effort to meet their commitments with respect to greenhouse gas emissions. They have a goal of attaining net zero by 2050. So it is a request for information process. They're looking for interest from agencies, groups that are looking to collaborate and contribute to large-scale, multi-year planting projects. And the request for information process is really about getting at what's your vision and your capacity. It will help them inform the program moving forward and help them identify follow-ups to actually seek proposals from. So the premise of the fund is it's match funding, which is a great opportunity for Niagara to bring federal investment locally to enhance tree canopy in the urban areas as well as in the rural areas with respect to forest cover. And it's a great opportunity for us to engage residents about nature-based solutions by building climate resiliency. That's precisely what 2 billion trees is all about, is highlighting nature-based solutions to address our climate change issues. So we did make a submission at the deadline on May 27th, and it's predicated on planting approximately 2 million trees over 10 years. On both public and private lands, and like I mentioned before, in urban and rural environments to address urban tree canopy and rural forest cover issues. The response that we submitted was focused on the MPC strength that it brings in terms of science and we've got 60 years of experience in terms of planting trees. And it emphasized that we'll be doing this scientifically to enhance our natural environment systems, assist with emerald ash borer recovery, establish green infrastructure, and continue on with agricultural best management practices. So I'm happy to report that the other aspect of it is we wanted to highlight that in Niagara, we have a really good collaboration going in a strong partnership. We have letters of support for all of our lower tier municipalities, all of our upper tier municipalities, the Niagara Parks Commission, and we demonstrated we have all that capacity that we bring to the table in terms of implementing tree planting projects, securing the land to put the trees on, as well as working with the various public works departments at the municipalities who already do tree planting and have those capacities, machineries, and all that. The other focus of the partnership is we're talking about how we would address biodiversity, acknowledging we are in a very sensitive Carolinian life zone where we have some of the highest biodiversity in all of Canada. And we were also highlighting that this place is highly degraded and fragmented, and it really needs the tree planting as well. And then again, highlighting our scientific process that we will be talking about putting trees where you're going to get your biggest bang for your environmental buck by talking about the cumulative objectives and impacts where we put the trees. So we've submitted that off, and we also supported through a letter of support Forest Ontario on the side, who's also making a submission. So depending on how Environment Canada looks at this, we've engaged this opportunity on a couple of fronts. So that's what I had to share. I'd be happy to answer any questions further.
Perfect, thank you. Anybody else would like to ask Jeff some questions about the 2 billion trees over the next 10 years? Donna.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. The where do you get all your trees? Like, where do you source them?
We get them from various nurseries. There's a handful of them, and you're right. That's an excellent point. And some of the things that we kind of mentioned in there as well too, that we'd be working with our local nurseries. We had letters of support from a couple of them as well too, from a supply chain thing, and that was also some of the emphasis behind the federal government, I believe, taking the request for information approach at the outset, because something of this scale and magnitude, it's upscaling quite a bit. And it's obviously going to affect those things like supply chains. But our team did talk to our providers, and they said, yeah, we can grow you whatever we want. You just have to commit to it. So.
Okay. I work a lot with Landscape Ontario, right? And so when the provincial tree initiative got canceled, right, they kind of already had a lot of stuff in motion as well. You know, Niagara is one of the biggest nursery producers in the province. And so there's a lot of nursery growers out there that, you know, might donate or join on or sign up or whatever, but you know, it would be an opportunity to leverage them like you just have. So yay, thanks.
It's also an opportunity to engage them on growing native in the species that we need in the Carolinian life zone, right? So we're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully cross your fingers or pray, whatever you do, that we get a good response from the federal government. And they ask us to come back with a proposal.
Yeah, you might in another year and a half or two or something. Who knows? Sorry, that's a
little tongue in cheek there, Donna. Yeah. Anyone else would like to have any questions or comments for Jeff?
Cindy Lee here. I couldn't get my hand up. So
Oh,
sorry.
I was gonna say,
Trying to
yeah,
figure
No,
it out.
listen, your hand is up. No, your hand is up. I'm
is it?
sorry. I'm
Okay, I
not
got
used
through
to
work. Okay.
Cindy Lee, I'm not used to that. So you'll have to bear with me. Go ahead.
Okay. Did I understand that like part of the trees will be like indigenous trees, right? Like that, because I know that we've got a lot of invasive non-indigenous trees, right? So we're looking at bringing those indigenous trees back, like the tulip trees and different things like that, like back into the environment to where they once were.
Yes, that was yes, through you, Chair Johnson. That was a strong focus of the response that we submitted. Again, focusing on the fact that we're in the Carolinian life zone and we have a lot of those kinds of trees, and that's what we should be putting back on the landscape. We even reference some of our biodiversity representation statistics from Joe will like this on the phone from when we did the natural heritage system in the past, and we gauged where our biodiversity representation is currently at to help make our case. So that is indeed the of the objectives. And like we just talked about, it will be a challenge because we'll have to get the nurseries to start thinking about growing those kind of things.
Would that be an opportunity also for education around that? Because I mean, there's many people that are not aware of the indigenous trees that are in this area. Like they're not aware of that, you know, you know, so I think would there be opportunity for the education piece? Because I would like, this would be like, I'm just wondering if that could be tied in somewhere as well, like for people to be educated on the trees are coming back in.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one, again, through you, Chair Johnson, one of the emphasis in the response was about engaging residents on those kind of topics. And we also acknowledge too, like that's a pretty aggressive target, 2 million trees over 10 years. That's upscaling what we do currently to our grant program significantly. And the limiting factor on it will be the land. So we've already acknowledged and kind of in our preliminary budgeting and factoring where the resources are going to be required is we're going to have quite an effort with just getting people providing land to put the trees on, securing the land. And that would go hand in hand with also talking about the need to put indigenous or native trees special to this actual Carolinian Life Zone area in this landscape again.
Cindy Lee?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Jeff. Donna, hang on, Donna. I just want to make sure everybody else has had a shot. And by the way, the lines across my face, I just had my second shot. No, I'm kidding.
You're so funny.
I'm actually going tomorrow, but I just thought, gee, this looks really cool. And so do you, Jeff. Every time you move, it's like there's like you've got this angel halo around you. Anybody else would like to ask a question before Donna asks her second one? See.
I just
go ahead.
saw there was a comment from Kelsey in the chat that she was happy to hear that the emphasis is going to be on native and indigenous trees to the area. So.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. I think we all are very pleased. Okay, Donna, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Dion. My apologies, Donna. Dion, you have waving your hand there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just
Sorry.
one question popped in my mind. This is 2 million in addition to what you already do through the grant process, or
Yeah, sorry, through you again, Chair Johnson.
It's okay.
The requirements from the federal government is that this is incremental. They want to invest into tree planting programs or proposals that are above and beyond what is currently going on at organizations who already are doing tree plants. So there were 2 tracks when this got announced. There was an early start to do some quick wins this year, but then this is the future participants one where they want to make sure that this is above and beyond what people are already doing. It's to get more on the landscape faster. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody
you, Chair.
else? You know what? No problem. Donna?
I guess on the connector, right? So, just make sure, this is where Steve's floodplain map and engagement with those people, at those meetings should be, here's our strategic plan update. Don't forget to donate to our stuff. And by the way, if you want trees planted on your property, here's where they go. And, one of the best things to deal with flood control is tree planting. So which species are you going to put where based on what he finds in the floodplain map? So, I know that's not part of their floodplain map RFP protocol that he does, but there's so much more that you can get out of that, right? And I know, Jeff, you've made all those connections in the past, but I just want to make sure that it gets stated again that, it's all connected.
Yep, super. All right. Thank you very much. Jeff, thank you very much for your presentation, and that's all good news. So I've got it moved by Erica and seconded by Joe, and I see they're still online, that we received Jeff's update, and anybody opposed to that? Seeing none. And now we have CAO Chandra Sharma, who actually joined us at the beginning of the meeting. I should have shouted out to you and said thank you for joining us. Chandra and I just love each other so much with the staff that we're even getting together tomorrow morning for our annual general meeting and our board meeting. So good to see you. And we have an update from you, please.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to say, Chair Johnson, your energy is obnoxious. I mean, tomorrow morning you have to be at the annual general meeting and then a full board meeting. And then I know you were at council meetings all day. I don't know how you do that. And to Donna.
Neither do I.
And to Donna for your wonderful comments. Donna, I'm just so impressed with everyone who is providing input and all the wonderful comments we are receiving. And Cindy Lee, Kelsey, you know, the suggestions you've just made are very good, and they make our projects really, really strong and better. So we're really thankful that you are around to give us that advice. I will not take much time. 6:39. As you know, the Conservation Authority Act, the whole legislation was updated in December and in February. So there's a whole bunch of legislative changes, and these changes have resulted in further regulations on a variety of components of Conservation Authority work. So just to make it very simple for you, February, the province proclaimed some of the governance provisions about Conservation Authority boards, membership, and some of the other bylaw related matters. Then now there is a 40-day posting on our mandated services. There's a guide that speaks to what will be included in the regulations regarding Conservation Authority mandatory, non-mandatory services, consolidation of regulations related to our lands and how we manage those lands. Then there is also a section on public advisory committees. That is what I want to talk to you about. It's very important. And there will be 2 more sets of regulations coming out later this year. One will be on Conservation Authority planning roles and responsibility. That's called Section 28. That is coming out maybe in a month or soon. And then towards the end of this year, the final set of regulations will be regarding our funding levy from municipalities and how that will be administered. Together, all these changes are bringing a lot of work and future changes to the Conservation Authority Act and how we conduct business. So we are working with the province, Conservation Ontario, and our municipal partners to make sure we can have a smooth transition. Talking about transition, so there is a transition period. We have to bring everything in conformity by 2023. So by the end of the term of this board and the next election, the term of council, all of that. Now, we have commented on this set of comments regarding mandatory, non-mandatory services. A report is going to the board. It will be circulated to the Public Advisory Committee as well. I should say that just for your information, the province is making the formation of public advisory boards mandatory for all conservation authority. For NPCA, it's not a huge issue. We have you and we have a committee. Although they will work with us to determine what the terms of reference should be, what the membership should be, what should they be called, because some conservation authorities have raised some concern. You call the board your board, and then you call a public. So, you know, our public advisory committee is called the committee. So are you going to call it a committee or a board, and what will be the difference? So all those details need to be sorted out. But we have also asked the province that if they are going to make this mandatory, it's not an issue for NPCA. We already have one, but it should be included as part of our mandatory services, so it can be included as part of the levy, and we can really support it properly. And it will be very helpful for other conservation authorities to learn from our model as well. So that's the comment on public advisory committees. Anybody can comment on this thing that's out. So if you in your networks, you would like to do that, I will ask Carrie actually to circulate the board report that will be approved tomorrow by the board to the Public Advisory Committee. So you don't wait for the next meeting. You can see that report tomorrow. So it will be for your information. The other areas which NPCA has commented, it's really welcoming. Actually, we are really pleased that there is a provision for a core watershed-based resource management strategy within which our programs and services will be detailed. So that provides a pretty good framework for Conservation Authority to develop their list of mandatory and non-mandatory programs within that watershed umbrella and taking a watershed approach. So we've thanked the province for including that. It's the working group made up of Conservation Ontario representative and others who are working with the province to facilitate that. We have also asked that levy regulations that are coming towards the end of the year should come a little earlier, so that gives us enough time to be able to implement everything. We've also commented on the mandatory programs and funding for the mandatory programs. Source water protection is another one. We want to make sure the province can keep funding provincial water quality program, an important program of conservation authorities, although it's been identified as a mandatory program, sort of. At this stage, we are emphasizing on that they do that. The one area that is very concerning for all conservation authority is the divide of non-mandatory and mandatory when it comes to managing our lands and parks. So if you have any recreational activity on your land, let's say you have a passive park and you have a trail on it, that can be considered as active conservation land and not part of the mandatory services or mandatory programs and a candidate for municipal levy. So you have to raise money to manage that piece of land. So that is a bit concerning because most conservation authority properties have passive trails for public, even though these are not active recreation areas like Binbrook or Balls Falls, but they provide important, well-being, other benefits to the community. And, we don't want to raise money through these properties. They should be available to the people to enjoy. So we are making a comment on that. We're also asking the province to consider asset management plans as mandatory because many of our properties have a huge gap when it comes to upkeep of assets on these conservation lands. So those are some of the main comments we have made. I'll be happy to circulate our comments to you. Happy to take any questions. If you are working through your networks and would like to send comments, please take a look at our comments, and I welcome you to send comments on the ERO posting, and that's the environmental registry. And it's open for 45 days. So 45 days will be June the 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our CAO Sharma? Seeing none. That's fine. I think it's great. We're going to have a more fulsome discussion of this at the board level tomorrow because there's a lot of things that's going to affect board level. Anyway, folks, I think we're wrapping up. So I believe we're going to go to the top of the list again, moved by Donna, second by Dion, that we received the CAO's presentation of the Conservation Authorities Act. Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you very much. Are there any other business before we close off? Carrie, do you have anything you want to add before we adjourn?
I don't have anything. Nope.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I hope everybody stays safe and stay healthy. It has been moved by Cindy Lee and seconded by John that we adjourn, and we can't thank you enough, everyone, for your valuable time and all your valuable input. It really super important to us, and I hope you realize that. Thank you. So if you're really bored, you can also chime into our AGM tomorrow and have a really good time. 9:30. Take care, everybody, and have a good night. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone.